Welcome to the UCLA Anderson Drive Time Podcast. My name is Dylan Stafford. I'm an assistant dean here at UCLA Anderson, and I'm your host. Today, we have an entrepreneurial, real-time, exciting, you get to see what it's like from the inside guest. Nicole Gear is a current student here at UCLA Anderson in our full-time MBA program and is currently the co-founder of Lanaky Labs, which is an artificial intelligence laboratory aggregating lots of different business objectives in real time, and you're going to get to hear her story. She's won the Wolfen Award, one of the standout accomplishments that's available here at UCLA. And she's a very proactive partner in the opportunity of the Venture Accelerator, and just an all-around great example of UCLA has the resources, and you got to kind of roll up your sleeves and go make them happen for yourself. So Nicole, thanks so much for being here today.
Dylan, it's a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
I really appreciate you. You literally came out of the Venture Accelerator. You were in the lab this morning.
I got walked out of the Venture Accelerator here to make sure that we weren't late.
So you're going to get to tell everyone. I just love the proactivity in your story, and I think that our anyone listening or watching this is going to really get a deeper sense of where do you start, how do you proceed, how much gumption does it take, and how do you connect the dots. But before any of that, let's maybe tell people a little bit about who you are, where you grew up. You've got an interesting story before you got to California.
Yeah, before I got to California. So I'm from Florida originally, from Northeast Florida, Jacksonville. I went from a Southern military family. Both my parents are in the armed forces, which I think we'd mentioned a little bit earlier. I had to beat the y'all and the sir and the ma'am out, but got there eventually. But I went to the University of Florida. I studied business there at the University of Florida. Was on the track to actually go to law school, had accepted an acceptance at a law school, was ready to kind of start my 1L, kind of follow the family plans of, college, grad school, go from there. But honestly, law school just didn't feel right for me at the time. And so I had an opportunity to work at a tech startup out in Silicon Valley. And so I packed a suitcase of clothes and I drove to Silicon Valley, thinking first off that LA and San Francisco would have the exact same weather because it's California, it's all the same. And honestly, had not had a lot of experience in the tech world or touching anything related to technology. I still thought Wi-Fi was magic. I still sometimes do. And so that's kind of how I ended up in Silicon Valley. And then I've been at 3 different tech startups. Went through a successful acquisition as a team member for a startup as just in September, very recently. And then from there, started my MBA here at Anderson and started kind of my own startup, my own company with 2 fantastic co-founders who kind of they're the tech wizards behind all of the things that we're building.
Well, and I want to, one of the things in our preparation as we were getting to know each other and really your story that you're in tech, you're successful, you're sequential, and yet you almost still don't exactly consider yourself a tech person. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it's very interesting. So I didn't think I would end up in tech. I don't come from a tech background, but you don't really need a computer science degree to become successful, to learn the ins and outs of technology and to become a real asset at a tech company. And I think I learned that sort of firsthand. But it's very interesting being kind of a women in tech, women in Silicon Valley, and then also from this really fantastic group of female founders, which is even a smaller subsect of kind of women in tech. But it's definitely been a very interesting journey.
Okay, so that I'm going through, doing well, University of Florida, big
Go
state
Gators.
school, go Gators, yeah, chomp them or whatever. I'll do my Texas A&M thing. We can compare Southern SEC traditions, and you're thinking law school, and then you set that down and actually kind of disrupt maybe the preordained pathway, pack the suitcase, come out here, 3 sequential companies, including an acquisition. And then along the way, when did the maybe MBA, when did that start to percolate? How did you come to think about maybe a master's degree in business?
Yeah, absolutely. So my background, as I mentioned, is business. And I was thinking that having had my whole career in tech startups, that it might be time to transition to maybe a big tech company.
Okay.
And so I thought an MBA would be a good jumping off point to kind of move into more of, say, strategy or kind of higher level decision-making processes. So instead of being on the front lines doing product stuff, talking to customers, things like that, being able to kind of affect higher level strategy at an organization. And so that was the reason why I decided MBA in general. Not the reason I picked Anderson specifically, but definitely the reason why I was thinking it's time to sort of change things up a little bit. and transition my career over into more higher level thinking.
Mm-hmm. And so you're out here and you're thinking strategy. You're thinking that's a good bridge. So how many schools are in California? I think there's three. UCLA, Stanford, Berkeley. Yeah, I think that's it. So
I think that's it.
Only three to choose from.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, just kidding. We love all of our neighbors across town. But as you because I think your story you actually identified some key assets or resources of Anderson in that. Tell us about that part.
Yeah, so the process was, the MBA process was very interesting. I looked at schools across the board, some schools in Texas, some schools in Florida, a couple of big schools in North Carolina. I genuinely don't like being cold, so I didn't really look anywhere north of kind of North Carolina. Even that was sort of pushing it. And so I kind of knew that I knew that I wanted to end up here in California, and so that really did narrow down my choices. And then it was honestly my A Days experience, or Anderson Days experience, that solidified that although I got into a couple of schools here in California, that it was Anderson that I would be attending.
Oh my goodness. So I know how hard the team works to put together A Days. So, what were some of the elements that really resonated for you?
So first off, I knew how important the network at Anderson was going to be. It's one of the most important things I think about MBA is to make sure that you are expanding your network, especially from people with such interesting and diverse backgrounds. Any top MBA program you go to, you're going to have smart people from diverse backgrounds. It's just kind of how it goes. But I would say the overall attitude of people who I met at A Days, who were all coming to Anderson, there was just so much inclusion and almost could get a sense of that collaborative environment sort of right off the bat. I would say definitely the people, and then second off would be actually the Venture Accelerator. Very much enjoyed the presentation that they gave down there. I've always had this idea of entrepreneurship in kind of the back of my head, but I'd only ever worked at other people's companies, helping kind of bring other people's sort of plans to fruition. And so it was sort of in the back of my mind. And basically when I met Trish and the Venture Accelerator team, I was like, yeah, I probably need to come to this school. Also, I get to live in Santa Monica.
And you get to live in Santa Monica. Yeah, nothing wrong with living on the west side. And Dean, our former dean, Dean Judy-Olian, and our current interim dean, Al Osborne, the Venture Accelerators is still new to us.
Very new.
I mean, we're still getting the resources and the etiquette and the who uses it when and how do we introduce it to Anderson students. How do we introduce it? Because I love the fact that it reaches out across campus. Come to Anderson with your dreams. Medicine, law, public policy, right? There's so many people who know that entrepreneurship is going to be part of their life's journey, and they look to Anderson because we're subject matter experts, and we can guide you in that. But as you're in it, so you're really like there's what we would ever hope it to be, and then you're living it. So
Absolutely.
when you tell people, what do you count on? What does it do for you? How do you explain it to your friends who are maybe behind you in the MBA chronology or peers who just haven't got over to the Venture Accelerator? What do you focus on when you tell people about it?
Absolutely. I would say just in general, the resources and the willingness to work with you. So they build basically a custom program for you. It's 6-month cohorts. One starts in January and one starts in June. And they work really, really closely with you. It's very hands-on to make sure that you are getting whatever your company needs. So for example, I run a tech startup, but my needs are very, very different from somebody who's starting something in, say, consumer packaged goods or in medicine or in law, trying to disrupt whatever industry that they're disrupting or bring a new product to market. Everybody has different needs. And so I thought that the way that they do the custom programming, they have access to legal resources that you need, entrepreneurs in residence, general programming, things I wouldn't have thought about, like how do you do better storytelling? They bring in experts from kind of every facet of running a company to make it a good experience.
And
there's snacks.
And and there's snacks. And it's a beautiful, it's 50,000 square feet, something like.
I think it's 15. I'd have to ask the powers that be, but it's a very, very functional space. You can move around. Everything's state-of-the-art technology. There's a pitch deck room to practice kind of pitching for investors. There's tons of little breakout rooms. There's call rooms. There's little nooks if you need to do more private stuff. If you need to have, entire focus group down there. There's basically everything that you need.
Yeah, and it was an entire floor of the library. And as we, transitioned to digital record keeping, it became, prime real estate in Los Angeles to create a home for the acceleration of ventures. And yeah, and
the space is great.
the space is great, and it's inspiring. And do you find yourself overlapping with fellow? I mean, there's people in your cohort, and then there would be other people coming and going. Does it create that overlap that you would hope in terms of what do you do? And
I think so. Yeah, I think it's great. Not only getting to know people who are in different stages of kind of company process. So we're at the point where we're actually launching the beta of our first product in 2 weeks, but there are some people who are still in more of like maybe a market research phase, or they're already doing testing, or they've already launched their product and now they're scaling. So being able to learn from people at different stages of the growth process and people who are in different industries. It's interesting, since I guess I'm pretty far into the tech industry at this point, it was very interesting to learn what other people are going through in different industries. And there is a lot of overlap. We do like founders lunches together. We do all of our programming together. We do trips around, so whether we're going up to Silicon Valley to visit VCs or we're meeting with tech companies here in LA or touring other accelerators, there's a lot of really interesting LA-based stuff, greater Silicon Valley-based stuff, and just interacting with your kind of your peers. And really great. I really like the co-working space a lot.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, let's introduce people to Lanaky Labs, because it's your baby. You know, it's coming on board even as we speak. How, you know, where was the chicken and egg? What happened first? And, you know, kind of tell people. So many people I know who will listen to this have aspirations to follow in your footsteps. So I would love for them to be able to learn some, you know, perspective from your journey.
Absolutely. So just to start off with, starting a company is very hard.
Yeah.
Everyone who if anybody tells you any differently, they are just wrong. But starting a company is hard. But Anderson kind of provided those resources and those stepping stones for me to feel comfortable to explore running our own company. So my co-founders and I have been working on kind of tools for real-time communication, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, kind of in the background, sort of part-time. So they're ex-Apple and ex-Google, ex-Google and ex-Tesla. And we've been working on these things sort of in the background. And we finally found what we think is a good market to go after with a great product. And so in January, Chris and Jordan quit their full-time jobs, and we went in on Lanaky Labs full-time. And we started actually our cohort in January too. So it was great timing. We got all the resources we needed to get off the ground. All of our we found a great legal team to get started with. Talking to our first customers, being able to hold meetings down in a co-working space, so it's not just remote calls, that kind of thing.
And not a call from my living room.
Exactly. You don't have to see me. Yeah, you don't have to see me sitting in my living room doing stuff. And
it's a professional presentation. So yeah.
Absolutely, and so it helps not only from the resources, but just that you have a whole team behind you that believes in you and will do whatever they need to do to help you get the resources that you need. So for example, if for some reason Anderson didn't have the resources, they connect you with the people who do have the resources, or they put you in touch with alumni who are in your industry who can help guide you. They provide mentors, which honestly my mentor has been one of the most helpful parts of the Venture Accelerator, is being able to have somebody who was a serial entrepreneur that they matched me with based on kind of what I needed and where I wanted to go, who's been helping me with honestly the whole life side of things, not just the company and the MBA side, but the whole how do you also make your life the life that you want to lead.
Yeah. Wow, very good.
It's honestly, yes, Anderson has been incredibly helpful for this whole process.
Yeah, because why succeed here and fail there? What about, why not build a life while I'm building a company? Yeah. That's, wow, I didn't realize. And your co-founders, did they find you? Did you find them? How did you all come to know each other? What's that professional courtship? You know, how does that go? Or how did it go for you, maybe?
Yeah, absolutely. Useful. So Chris and Jordan went to Caltech together.
Okay.
And Chris and I actually worked at a separate startup together, a company called Kuna that was doing kind of smart home security systems.
Okay.
And that's when I got my first taste of connected devices and Internet of Things. And while we were working at Kuna, we noticed that there was a big gap in the industry, being able to do things in true real time and being able to kind of do them securely. So the entire IoT industry right now it's barely a day goes by where you don't read a headline about how some big tech company may or may not be listening to your connected speakers, or people can view your smart video cameras, or how insecure things like even autonomous vehicles are. And so we'd had an idea kind of while we were at Kuna together about maybe we should help solve some of these issues in an overall like larger industry. And when I basically started my MBA and had a little bit more free time, we started exploring these options a little bit more deeply, still part-time. nights and weekends and things like that. And we finally think that we are in the right spot to launch and go for it.
Mm. Well, in each of you, because Chris and Jordan are recently ex-Tesla, ex-Google, and you had said, I'm going to go get my degree. So you were already a step further along in the sense of, I'm going to give myself the capacity to do something new.
Yeah, the company I was at, Hybrick, we were in the process of acquisition by a large company, basically as early as I think April. And so that was when I was making this decision about whether or not I was going to pursue the MBA, whether I was going to go work at this big tech company as part of this acquisition team, or do something else entirely and maybe go scuba dive in Thailand for a bit. There was a lot of different options going on there for a little while. And I figured MBA would be the best place to go, just to kind of reset and explore different types of things. Like I'd mentioned strategy in the past. So just being able to explore different options, different opportunities. Maybe I get out of tech entirely. So I was already on that process, and it just so happened to work out perfectly with Chris and Jordan's timing. And they were ready to build their own company as well. And so we really were excited to be able to build something the way that we want to build it. So something that's secure and built just well from the ground up.
Mm-hmm. And they have a Caltech connection, and you now are the gateway to UCLA. So everybody's kind of
basically unstoppable at this point.
Yeah, those are intellectual powerhouses, and I always think of kind of UCLA as the broader nest, and all of the resources are 125 graduate programs of study, and this is #1 public university in the nation, only top 10 university in the world that's younger than 100 years old as we celebrate our centennial this year. All these, I don't know, you come to UCLA and it's almost hard to see the stature. You just see the buildings and the pretty lawn and lovely California weather, but the stature of UCLA globally is an asset that's always working on our behalf when it comes to getting doors opened and bringing the resources to bear to accomplish. That's fascinating. So, okay. When and how did, so you won the Wolfen Award.
Yes, absolutely.
That's another. I want people to some key vocabulary takeaway from our conversation with Nicole. The Venture Accelerator, obviously, and the Wolfen Award. So that's a high prestige accomplishment. So tell people about that who haven't ever heard of that.
Absolutely. So when our idea to launch a company, apply for the Venture Accelerator, then get into the Venture Accelerator, and then go on to things full time. I'd originally had this plan of doing a big tech internship and transitioning kind of into big tech, but I realized as we started gaining traction, as we're getting ready to launch our first product, I really did not want to spend the summer working full time on someone else's project at someone else's company and transitioning basically back to part-time on kind of our product, our company. And so I started exploring other options, like maybe I do drop out. Really did not want to drop out. Wanted to stay a part of kind of the UCLA community. And so then I just started asking, what options do I have?
How do I keep my cash flow and
how do I make all of this work? And I learned about this Wolfen grant, which they sponsor you to work throughout the summer. You get a spot in the Venture Accelerator, and you get to kind of work on your entrepreneurial idea over the summer, as sponsored by the very, very generous Wolfen family and by the UCLA community as well. And so I applied for that, and it's a very rigorous kind of process to get through that. They are very, very selective, as I think that they should be. And so being able to show that I did have an idea, that I was committed to this, that I was going to be working on this full time somehow or other, regardless of how this whole process turned out. And I was just very, very lucky to have been chosen by the Wolfen family for the entrepreneurial grant.
And that creates some of the carrying capacity that you need in this early stage.
Exactly. So it still allows us to basically allows me to keep the lights on and pay for my internet and
that magical Wi-Fi that we love.
Basically the magic that comes out of that modem there to keep everything kind of running smoothly without any interruptions, and it allows me to really just focus on building out this company with, like I said, my co-founders are fantastic, and they've been so supportive through all of this. Without such a supportive group, it would have been honestly impossible to juggle all of the things that we're juggling. And so I've been very, very lucky for resources from not only UCLA, but also for just having the best group of co-founders.
That is wonderful. I think your story is going to inspire people 100%. I would also assume that you're going to particularly inspire women. What are some thoughts? I mean, Silicon Valley has a rap for being kind of where guys go to think about stuff. Like it's kind of,
the Programmers Club.
Yeah, the Programmers Club, and you're being successful in that, and being proactive and being a leader. What might you share to a woman who's looking up to you or seeing you as a possible role model?
I would say one of the biggest things is just be willing to learn. So I showed up in Silicon Valley really not knowing left from right when it came to the tech industry, and being able to just ask for help and just say, I do not know. Like, people will throw around acronyms and they'll just say, hey, could you actually stop and just explain that for a second? Or pull someone aside after a meeting and say, I didn't quite really understand how this system interacted with this system. Can I buy you lunch and you walk me through it? Or can you sit down with an engineering team and just have them walk you through an overview of how different pieces interact with other pieces? And so to be successful in tech from a non-tech background, it really is that willingness to learn, willingness to ask questions, and willingness to ask for help. And I think that those were very, very successful for me, because it would be different coming with a computer science background or jumping straight into mechanical or electrical engineering, building hardware, building software, those kind of things. But from a non-tech background, you just need to be proactive and say, yeah, actually, I don't know the answer to this. And so I know, hard-charging MBA students may have a little bit of trouble with that side of being like, I actually don't know what's going on all the time. But being willing to kind of open up and say, I would love to learn this, can you please teach me, is how I was able to basically survive. Maybe some people would say thrive. But
it's happening in real time. Let's call it thrive. Let's call it thrive.
I like that. I will take that. But being able to build a career without a tech background in a very tech-heavy industry. Tech.
and in business economics, University of Florida, thinking pre-law, right? And then life is an adventure for each and every one of us, right? Each of us build our own outcomes, and a metaphor that's near and dear to me is being CEO of our own life.
I like that a lot. Being CEO of your own life.
And a CEO surrounds himself with a board. So you have Chris, you have Jordan, you have your classmates here, you have Trish, you have the Venture Accelerator. You're surrounding yourself with people who can, I can bring a beginner's mind and share their resources, and I'm going to create my own pathway.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's very important too to remember that the resources are there. It's just you may have to go out and get them. So being willing to also do that legwork for it, but having, as you mentioned, having fantastic and supportive co-founders who also have very different backgrounds than I do, which is very helpful because we think about things differently. And so being able to see their perspective on things, being able to run things past people in the accelerator, being able to talk to my classmates who come from different industries with different backgrounds. Like, I remember the first time I was like, oh, that's how you build an Excel model. I'm like, oh, okay. And being able to just call on all of those resources whenever you need to. Yeah, I would not have been able to do this without it.
Shout out to Excel. I hired Matt Gorlick onto my team. He was the valedictorian of the FEMBA class of 2013. Was going to be a Disney lifer. Had 8 really successful years all throughout Disney. 5th generation Angelino. Loved Southern California, and he had a real awakening during school that he loves education. He loves leadership, and he's going to become he's like the Sarah Tucker role. In the full-time program, he's that role for FEMBA, and our results just blossomed when he came on the team. But the man is a master of Excel. The man can make magic happen with Excel, and I feel so old when I'm around him because he's so quick. And yet, it's just one of those. So any of you listening, summer before school starts, take an Excel class.
Oh, definitely take that Excel class that they offer.
Yeah, the David Ravitch. Just get Excel into it's MBA 101. It
absolutely is. And it was interesting coming to an MBA with a business background, and so. I would also say it's helpful for people who already have, I do have a business degree, an undergraduate business degree, and there's so many things that I've learned in this program that I would not have been able to learn otherwise or would not have been exposed to otherwise. Things like corporate strategy and, building out more financial modeling for when you try to raise your own money, or if you're working for a company where you need to understand I mean, cash is king. You need to understand where money's coming from, where it's going, things like that, and being able to have a higher level, broader view. MBA is so beneficial to so many different backgrounds.
Well, maybe even a little bit you could expand on that. Anything about just being a student here. Right? The opportunity of Anderson is so broad, and it's the back of the back of the coin is that the challenge of Anderson is you can get lost here. I think, and you do need to be. This is a proactive place for proactive people. Is the best coaching I can ever offer anybody. Anything about orienting your first year, sort of stumbling blocks or things that helped you that you've learned so far that might help others?
Absolutely. I think it's also very important to approach your MBA with an open mind. So like I said, I knew where I was going, knew where my internship was going to be for my summer, and now I'm in a very different place. But I knew exactly what I was doing. So keeping an open mind and being open to all of the different experiences, but also remembering that you only have a finite amount of resources. And you got to try to make yourself at least a little bit scarce so that you have time to kind of reflect and think about what you want to do in your life path. So I mean, immediately when I got to school, I signed up for every single club, every single thing I might want to do, and signed up for trips with my classmates, which were some of my favorite times at Anderson, but kind of overloaded myself a little bit, and then adding in starting a company while doing a full-time MBA, and I kind of had to realize that only so much time, only so many resources. So you have to really be selective with your time and put kind of a value on your own time and make sure that you don't overextend yourself, because that might be kind of the first intonation. You're back to school for the first time. For a lot of people, first time in a long time. You're back on a fun college campus in an amazing city. There's always fun and interesting things to do, but make sure that you are, keeping your time valued and making sure that you are, taking the time to reflect and make sure that you are going after the right things.
And I love that, because I would love other people to, accelerate their integration into the multiple parallel opportunities of Anderson. Did you figure that out first quarter? Was it first quarter, winter quarter? How and when was that happening? And did you just say, okay, I'm gonna decouple from, I can't do every club? Which ones did you keep? Which ones did you set aside? How did that go?
Yeah, it was a very interesting learning process. I just kind of assumed that eventually I would figure out when I ran out of time, but it can happen really quickly. So I think it was during our summer quarter exams when I realized, like, oh, we're actually getting ready to potentially launch this company. I need to be applying to accelerator programs. We need to figure out what legal structure we're going to do, how we're going to balance all of these things. And I was like, ooh, yeah, I probably can't go to this one event or things like that. But the ones that I'm still in, I'm still in the Entrepreneurship Association, EA, and I'm also in AnderTech and the Anderson Wine Club.
Okay, so two professional, one exhale, social, yeah.
Absolutely, and then then also in the cohort at the Venture Accelerator right now, and then also we'll be working on the accelerator this summer with the Wolfen grant.
And for people who are entrepreneurs in the making, do you recommend Entrepreneurs Association, AnderTech? Are those good pre-entrepreneurial clubs in your experience?
I think so, and there's also very interesting clubs for anything you want to do. So if you want to be in investment banking, if you know you want to do marketing, if you want to do entertainment, is huge here at UCLA. So I would say, even if you have just an inkling that you want to go into an industry like that, join those clubs, talk to the second years, or your FEMBA and EMBA counterparts who maybe have been in the industry or are coming from the industry or have done internships in the industry, and learn a little bit more about what it actually entails. And I think that there's a club for everything that you want to do.
Yeah, there really
there really is. You can't join them all though. Don't forget.
That's the upside. That's the challenge. Well, we're kind of coming to the end here, but maybe kind of give us a little something to how can we follow? So, like, if you look at the next 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, I don't know if you go further than that. That may be far in the future.
I'm about 15-minute increments at this point.
15 minutes. Yeah, exactly. What's going to happen before evening tonight? What's the future look like for you from where you are right now, coming up towards the summer?
Yeah, so I've got like I said, I'll be working full time on my startup Lanaky Labs this summer through the Wolfen grant. We're launching our first product, still in beta, but we're launching our first product in the next 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, we're trying to get some people to kick the tires and make sure that we did build something that I think it's gonna be a very helpful product for everything from connected devices, self-driving cars, and smart home, anything really IoT is kind of what we're targeting now. And I can give you more information once we finally launched on that. But I think the next month will be getting this beta out the door and really learning from it. So making sure we've got the right product market fit, make sure we have the right people talking, right people using it, and make sure that we can learn as much as we can from it. So that'll be basically the next month. 3 months out, we'll be kind of polishing everything and getting ready for hopefully paying customers. So we'll see for that. And then 6 months out, potentially we'll raise some VC funding. Potentially we will try to convince one of my co-founders to move down to LA. So we'll see about that. He's up in Silicon Valley still. But yeah, just trying to see what we can learn from getting our first product that we ourselves built out the door.
Oh, exciting.
Yeah, it's a very, very exciting time.
It really is. And is there a place that you would, if people wanted to follow the journey, would they follow the website, follow you on LinkedIn?
Yes, we've got LinkedIn. If somebody's got a computer science background or likes to build fun projects, we're on GitHub as well, so you can see kind of what we're building. We've got our website up and running. You can even sign up for our beta if you wanted to, if you're on the developer side. And then I will be, hopefully sharing updates with you guys, hopefully positive updates in the future too.
Well, Nicole Gear, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being a leader. You're not thinking about it someday. You are on the court, and life happens on the court, and you're playing the game in real time. And Chris and Jordan, you guys are, it's exciting to hear. And I know our friends in the Venture Accelerator are so proud of you, and really hold you.
Sounds like they said nice things, which is good.
They did. They said you got to meet her, and I'm so grateful for Will connecting us, and for Trish. I'm excited. Trish is an alum, and she's so.
Honestly, this journey would have been potentially just not possible without the UCLA kind of backing. So both the Venture Accelerator, UCLA in general, and kind of giving us the resources, and for me personally in the full-time program, the flexibility to be able to pursue this.
Yeah. Well, and I hope we can maybe showcase your company at Palooza 8 this year. We'll see. I
had a great time at the last Palooza, by the way, even though I'm not a member.
Well, it's really morphing into a One Anderson event. The timing just doesn't always work for the first year experience of the full-time cohort, but we're doing our best to try to fix that. So but everybody's welcome. Everybody's welcome, and we do think that that share success. I love that motif. I think Dean Olean worked really hard. Share success, drive change, think fearlessly. It's like to me, it's the three-headed monster. Yes, you're going to be smarter and more intelligent, and that's key and critical. You're going to create an incredible network, and then somewhere along the way, you get that go for it intestinal fortitude to just try, and you can't drive change from a couch.
I agree completely, and honestly, I can't think of a better time in your life than an MBA program to attempt, if you have even an inkling of entrepreneurship. You don't need to necessarily go out and start your own company, but maybe do an internship at a startup, or take a couple of the entrepreneurial classes that we have and learn how to build in more entrepreneurial kind of learnings into your day-to-day. You're not going to have the support like this probably any other time. So if there's even an inkling that entrepreneurship might be something interesting, you can explore that, and I would highly suggest that everybody explores it. Also, come work in tech.
Well, very wonderfully said, Nicole. You're gonna change the trajectory of more than a couple people's MBA. I am very confident. So this has been Nicole Gear. Follow Lanaky Labs. This is an exciting real-time UCLA Anderson story in the making. And thank you so much,
Dylan, for talking with me today.
Appreciate it very much.
It's such a pleasure.